Latin America is generally understood to consist of the entire continent of South America in addition to Mexico, Central America, and the islands of the Caribbean whose inhabitants speak a Romance language. The peoples of this large area shared the experience of conquest and colonization by the Spaniards and Portuguese from the late 15th through the 18th century, as well as movements of independence from Spain and Portugal in the early 19th century. Even since independence, many of the various nations have experienced similar trends, and they have some awareness of a common heritage. However, there are also enormous differences between them. Not only do the people live in a large number of independent units, but the geography and climate of their countries vary immensely. The inhabitants' social and cultural characteristics differ according to the constitution of the occupants before the Iberian conquest, the timing and nature of European occupation, and their varying material endowments and economic roles. Since the Spanish and Portuguese element looms so large in the history of the region, it is sometimes proposed that Ibero-America would be a better term than Latin America. Latin seems to suggest an equal importance of the French and Italian contributions, which is far from being the case. Nevertheless, usage has fastened on Latin America, and it is retained here. Latin America, French, l'Amérique Latine, are the countries and regions of the Americas where Romance languages derived from Latin are predominantly spoken. The term was coined in France in the mid-19th century to refer to regions in the Americas that were ruled by the Spanish, Portuguese, and French empires. The term does not have a precise definition, but it is commonly used to describe South America, Central America, Mexico, and the islands of the Caribbean. In a narrow sense, it refers to Spanish America and Brazil, Portuguese America. The term Latin America is broader than Hispanic America, which specifically refers to Spanish-speaking countries, and lesser than categories such as Ibero-America, a term that refers to both Spanish and Portuguese-speaking countries from Europe and Americas. The term Latin America was first used in Paris at a conference in 1856 called Initiative of America, Idea for a Federal Congress of the Republics, Iniciativa de la América. Idea de un Congreso Federal de las Repúblicas, by the Chilean politician Francisco Bilbao. The term was further popularized by French Emperor Napoleon III's government in the 1860s as Amérique Latine to justify France's military involvement in the Second Mexican Empire and to include French-speaking territories in the Americas such as French Canada, Haiti, French Louisiana, French Guyana, Martinique, Guadeloupe, and the French Antillean Creole Caribbean islands Saint Lucia, and Dominica, in the larger group of countries where Spanish and Portuguese languages prevailed. The region covers an area that stretches from Mexico to Tierra del Fuego and includes much of the Caribbean. It has an area of approximately 19,197,000 square kilometers, 7,412,000 square miles, almost 13% of the Earth's land surface area. As of March 2, 2020, the population of Latin America and the Caribbean was estimated at more than 652 million, and in 2019, Latin America had a combined nominal GDP of $5,188,250 trillion and a GDP PPP of $10,284,588 trillion. More than 40 of the 50 most dangerous cities in the world are located in Latin America. Latin America is often used synonymously with Ibero-America, Iberian America, where the population speak Spanish or Portuguese and the dominant religion is Roman Catholic. Puerto Rico, the Spanish-speaking Caribbean territory of the United States, acquired from the Spanish Empire following its defeat in the 1898 Spanish-American War, is usually included. This definition excludes the predominantly Protestant English-speaking and Dutch-speaking regions, as well as French-speaking predominantly Catholic regions. Belize, Guyana, and Suriname, as well as several French overseas departments, are excluded from the definition. In another definition, Latin America designates the set of countries in the Americas where a Romance language, a language derived from Latin, predominates, Spanish, Portuguese, or French. Thus, it includes Mexico, most of Central and South America, and in the Caribbean, Cuba, the Dominican Republic, and Haiti. Latin America then comprises all of the countries in the Americas that were once part of the Spanish, Portuguese, and French empires. Puerto Rico, although not a sovereign nation, is often included. The term is sometimes used more broadly to refer to all of the Americas south of the United States, thus including the Guyanas, French Guyana, Guyana, and Suriname, the Anglophone Caribbean, and Belize, the Francophone Caribbean, and the Dutch Caribbean. This definition emphasizes a similar socio-economic history of the region, which was characterized by formal or informal colonialism, rather than cultural aspects. See, for example, dependency theory. Latin America can be subdivided into several subregions based on geography, politics, demographics, and culture. The basic geographical subregions are North America, Central America, the Caribbean, and South America. The latter contains further politico-geographical subdivisions such as the Southern Cone, the Guyanas, and the Andean states. It may be subdivided on linguistic grounds into Spanish America, Portuguese America, and French America. The term Latin America is defined to mean parts of America south of USA mainland where a Romance language, a language derived from Latin, predominates, that is, a language of Spanish, Portuguese or French. Latin America is generally understood to consist of the entire continent of South America in addition to Mexico, Central America, and the islands of the Caribbean whose inhabitants speak a Romance language. The peoples of this large area shared the experience of conquest and colonization by the Spaniards and Portuguese from the late 15th through the 18th century as well as movements of independence from Spain and Portugal in the early 19th century. This is an alphabetically ordered list of countries in Latin America. North and Central America: Belize, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Mexico, Nicaragua, Panama. South America: Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, French Guyana, Department of France, Guyana, Paraguay, Peru, Suriname, Uruguay. Venezuela. Caribbean countries: Cuba, Dominican Republic, Haiti. Dependencies and constituent entities: Guadeloupe, Martinique, Puerto Rico, Saint Barthélemy, Saint Martin. Romance languages: group of related languages all derived from Vulgar Latin within historical times and forming a subgroup of the Italic branch of the Indo-European language family. The major languages of the family include French, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, and Romanian, all national languages. Catalan also has taken on a political and cultural significance, among the Romance languages that now have less political or literary significance or both are the Occitan and Rhaetian dialects, Sardinian, and Dalmatian, extinct, among others. Of all the so-called families of languages, the Romance group is perhaps the simplest to identify and the easiest to account for historically. Not only do Romance languages share a good proportion of basic vocabulary still recognizably the same in spite of some phonological changes and a number of similar grammatical forms, but they can be traced back, with but few breaks in continuity, to the language of the Roman Empire. So close is the similarity of each of the Romance languages to Latin as currently known from a rich literature and continuous religious and scholarly tradition that no one doubts the relationship. For the non-specialist, the testimony of history is even more convincing than the linguistic evidence. Roman occupation of Italy, the Iberian Peninsula, Gaul, and the Balkans accounts for the Roman character of the major Romance languages. Later European colonial and commercial contacts with parts of the Americas, of Africa, and of Asia readily explain the French, Spanish, and Portuguese spoken in those regions. Romance languages are also used formally in some countries where one or more non-Romance languages are used by most speakers for everyday purposes. French, for example, is used alongside Arabic in Tunisia, Morocco, and Algeria, and it is the official language of 18 countries: Benin, Burkina Faso, Burundi, Cameroon, the Central African Republic, Chad, the Republic of the Congo, Côte d'Ivoire, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Djibouti, Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, Guinea, Mali, Niger, Rwanda, Senegal, and Togo on the continent of Africa, and of Madagascar and several other islands off the coast of Africa. Portuguese is the official language of Angola, Cabo Verde, Guinea-Bissau, Mozambique, and São Tomé and Príncipe. Suriname is not part of Latin America, which probably sounds surprising as it is located within South America. Latin America consists of Romance language-speaking Caribbean islands, Mexico, Central America, and the entire continent of South America. The whole region is culturally diverse due mainly to the various European settlers that claimed lands in it. Latin America includes 26 countries that share history, heritage, and languages. There is, however, one region located within South America that is not considered Latin American. To understand why Suriname is not considered a Latin American country, these are some relevant concepts to check first. The term Hispanic refers exclusively to the language, and the term Latino is based on geography and other aspects. Let me elaborate. People from countries within the Latin American region who speak either Spanish or Portuguese are considered Latino, which is probably short for Latino Americano. On the other hand, the term Hispanic is used solely for speakers of the Spanish language regardless of their country. This means they can live in Latin America or Spain. To make it a bit clearer, Brazilians are considered Latinos and Latinas because they live in a Latin American country, but they are not Hispanic as they speak Portuguese. A country is considered Latin American if it was or is still ruled by a country that speaks a Romance language, Spanish, French, or Portuguese, and its population also speaks it. Let's take Belize as an example. Belize borders Guatemala, a Latin American country. However, Belize's official language is English, so it is not considered part of Latin America. Their official language of Suriname is Dutch, which is the main reason why they are not a Latin American country. They do not speak a Romance language even if they are surrounded by Latinos. Wealth inequality in Latin America and the Caribbean remains a serious issue despite strong economic growth and improved social indicators. One indicator of inequality is access to and quality of education. During the first phase of globalization in Latin America, educational inequality was on the rise, peaking around the end of the 19th century. In comparison with other developing regions, Latin America then had the highest level of educational inequality, which is certainly a contributing factor for its current general high inequality. During the 20th century, however, educational inequality started decreasing. Latin America has the highest levels of income inequality in the world. The following table lists all the countries in Latin America indicating evaluation of the country's Human Development Index, GDP at purchasing power parity per capita, measurement of inequality through the Gini Index, measurement of poverty through the Human Poverty Index, a measure of extreme poverty based on people living on less than $1.25 a day, life expectancy, murder rates, and a measurement of safety through the Global Peace Index. Green cells indicate the best performance in each category, and red the lowest. Latin American populations are diverse, with descendants of the indigenous peoples, Europeans, Africans initially brought as slaves, and Asians, as well as new immigrants. Mixing of groups was a fact of life at contact of the Old World and the New, but colonial regimes established legal and social discrimination against non-white populations simply on the basis of perceived ethnicity and skin color. Spanish is the predominant language of Latin America. It is spoken as first language by about 60% of the population. Portuguese is spoken by about 30%, and about 10% speak other languages such as Quechua, Mayan languages, Guarani, Aymara, Nahuatl, English, French, Dutch and Italian. Portuguese is spoken mostly in Brazil, the largest and most populous country in the region. Spanish is the official language of most of the other countries and territories on the Latin American mainland, as well as in Cuba and Puerto Rico, where it is co-official with English, and the Dominican Republic. French is spoken in Haiti and in the French overseas departments of Guadeloupe, Martinique, and Guyana. It is also spoken by some Panamanians of Afro-Antillean descent. Dutch is the official language in Suriname, Aruba, Curaçao, and the Netherlands Antilles. The vast majority of Latin Americans are Christians, 90%, mostly Roman Catholics belonging to the Latin Church. About 70% of the Latin American population considers itself Catholic. In 2012, Latin America constitutes in absolute terms the second world's largest Christian population, after Europe. Thank you for watching this video.